Good morning. Oh, can you hear me now? How about now? Yes? Hey! All right, I hear me. Good morning. All right. There was a young man who was having some heart problems, and he went to his doctor to try to figure out some solutions. His doctor had one way out of it. He said, you're going to have a heart transplant. There's no other way around it. He said, but I have 3 specific hearts that you can choose from. The first one is from an 18-year-old kid, very healthy, athletic. He was a swimmer in high school, great diet, really good, took really good care of himself. His heart is $100,000. The next one I have is from a 25-year-old marathon runner. Again, great shape, great diet, really took care of himself. But he was hit by a bus and he died. So his heart's $150,000. Now the third one I have for you is from a middle-aged man. He was a heavy drinker, heavy smoker, and he loved red meat. Didn't exercise a day in his life. Took horrible care of himself. But his heart is $500,000. And the man thought for a second. He said, wait a second. Why is that one so much more expensive if it's obvious the guy didn't take care of himself or his heart? The doctor said, well, because that guy was a lawyer and we know that he didn't use his heart. Oh, I apologize to any lawyers in the building. It's all good. It's all good. It's totally not true. We use our heart in every way. I mean, we even say things like, boy, that person just doesn't have a heart. Right? That means that they're just not a pleasant person. They're not a happy-go-lucky, friendly person that you want to hang out with. They're a very non-caring, uncaring individual. So we say they don't have a heart. But it's true, they have a heart. Right? We all have a heart. We all use our hearts. In fact, everything we do is an overflow from our hearts. Absolutely everything. In fact, the Bible says that our heart is the seat of all of our actions in life. Joe Stowell wrote a book titled Fan the Flame, and he says this: the heart is used in Scripture as the most comprehensive term for the authentic person. Now before I go too much further, what he's saying is the heart tells who you really are. We talk a good game about who we are, who we think we are, who we want others to think we are. Kind of like Facebook. No, not exactly. Kind of, though, right? We put up this image of who we want others to think we are. We can talk a good game. We can even pretend sometimes and fool others as to who we really are. But the heart tells who we truly are. It doesn't lie. And he goes on to say this, that the heart is the part of our being where we desire, deliberate, and decide. It's been described as the place of conscious and decisive spiritual activity. The comprehensive term for a person as a whole. That is, his feelings, desires, passions, thought, understandings, and will. It's the center of a person and the place to which God turns. That paints a very clear picture of what the heart actually looks like. It's the place where all of our desires, our understandings, our wills, they all come from there. So the heart is a pretty big deal. We need to guard our heart, considering all of that. The Bible talks a lot about the heart. The book of Proverbs alone, the word heart is used more than 90 times. Throughout the entire Bible, the NIV version, it's more than 760 times we hear talk about the heart. The heart is a big deal. It's very, very important because it's important to God. You just look back at the example of Samuel. Samuel was sent to anoint the next king of Israel. When Saul threw it away. He really did. He decided to do his own thing. He disregarded God and God's plan, and God was speaking through the prophets and telling him, and he ignored it. So God took the kingdom away from him, and it was going to be given to the next king. Of course, we know that to be David. And so Samuel is sent to the house of Jesse, and he's standing there, and Jesse's sons are all standing in front of him. Well, not all of them, actually. David was the youngest son, and he was out in the field tending the sheep. Somebody had to be doing that, and Dad didn't think David had to be there. So Samuel's standing there in front of all of his sons, almost all of them, right? And he sees the firstborn son, Eliab. And he's taller than the rest. And so he says, surely, I don't think his name was Shirley, but surely this is the Lord's anointed. Now, I don't think he actually spoke it out loud. I think it's more like he was thinking, oh, there's the man. But God said no. I love that. God said no. He completely rejects him. He said, no. Look, Don't consider his height or his appearance, because I have rejected him. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord considers the heart. So God looks at the heart. He considers the heart. So the heart is a very big deal to God. It should be a very big deal to us. And so this command this morning is very simple. There's not a whole lot to say. This might be the shortest message ever, but that's okay. I've never had a complaint about a short sermon. Right? There's never a bad short sermon. That's what I've been told. But anyways, it's guard your heart. It's very simple. So let's take a look first and foremost this morning at that command. All right, Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart. Everything you do, for everything you do flows from it. Wow. Above all else. Above and beyond anything, guard your heart. It's an imperative command. By the way, that is a command. It's not just a good suggestion or something that's just, a great thought. He's saying guard your heart. It means to guard. That's pretty clear. It means to protect, to preserve. It means to keep out rather than to keep in, okay? In fact, it's the same word. That word guard is the same word that we see back in Genesis chapter 2 when God tells Adam to keep the garden. It's the same word. It means to guard. Protect. God in a way is saying, hey, I'm giving you a heads up. There are things you need to make sure that don't get in here. Protect it. Guard it. Keep those things out. And so the same is true with our hearts. Be very careful what you allow into your heart. Guard your heart. Protect it. Everything that we do flows from it. It's the wellspring of life. I think about the Homeland Security here in the U.S. And one of their major fears is attack, obviously, but specifically a chemical or biological attack on our water supply. So it would be devastating. We need water to survive. We use water for so many things. And so they go through great lengths to make sure that they guard and protect our water supply. We need to do the same thing with our hearts. It's no different. It's a wellspring of life. Guard your heart. Listen, Satan knows. He was that first terrorist ever, right? He knows if he can get just a little piece of the pie, if he can get into your heart just a itty bitty tiny bit, once he's in, he's got a foothold in your life, because everything we do flows from our heart. We have grumpy, mean, unpleasant words and actions. It's flowing from our hearts. We have pleasant, wonderful, loving words and actions. It's flowing from our heart. Everything that we do in life flows from our heart. We have to guard our hearts. The quality of our life, in many ways, is determined by the condition of our hearts. Jeremiah 17:9 says this: "The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure." Look, there's the command. Guard your heart. It's not just a good idea. It's a command. We can do it. If God says to do it, we can do it. We have the ability to do it. Everybody say, I am able. Okay, one more time. Okay, once more, make me believe it. Thank you, there we go. I am able. We are able. We are able to do this. God says to do it, we can do it. He wouldn't tell us to do something that we were not able to do. So he says, guard your heart. Above all else, guard your heart. Our heart really controls our actions. And our actions determine our habits. And our habits shape our character. The heart's a big deal. What we do, what we say, the ways we act, everything, it all comes from the heart. Scientists have discovered, actually quite some time ago, that every snowflake, every single snowflake, has a little speck of dust at the very center. Just a little piece of dust. I think it's really cool because I think God is so awesome that not only is every snowflake supposedly like a fingerprint, and no two are the same ever, but there's just that little tiny piece of dust there. We can't even see it. I mean, I can't see it. I've been eating dirt, I guess, for a long time because, as a kid in Michigan, the snowflakes fall down, you catch them on your tongue, you're eating snow, not the yellow kind, but you're eating snow, and you go on and you play. So I guess I've been eating dirt for a long time, so maybe it's not all bad, but there's that little piece of dirt right in the center of a snowflake, right? We could say that every snowflake has a dirty heart. Kind of. But look, we know people like that, right? We do. We know these people who are snowflakes. They look all good and pretty and prim and proper and everything on the outside, and they talk a good game and they walk a good game, but on the inside, their heart is dirty. It's dirty. They're not guarding their heart. They're not taking care to guard their heart, to protect it, to keep it. And yet the command is guard your heart above all else. Why? Well, because for everything you do flows from it. So that sounds great. Guard your heart. There's the message. Just do it. Okay. How does that look? How do we do that? What does that look like? I mean, there's a little more to it than that. And so this morning specifically, I want to share with you 3 ways in which you can guard your heart. Okay? First and foremost, control your speech. Proverbs 4:24 says this, keep your mouth free of perversity, keep corrupt talk far from your lips. If you talk or joke around in a perverse manner, it's in here. It's in your heart. It's just coming out of your heart. It's not something that just happened to pop up in your mind or just kind of spit out from your mouth. It was something in your heart. Corrupt talk the same way. It's in your heart. So guard your heart by controlling what you say. We control what we say. Honestly. I know people who said, I didn't mean that. That just slipped out. It's like, well, that's not 100% true or accurate because we can control what we say. We can totally control. We can think about. James says that we're to be slow to speak, slow to become angry, quick to listen. We usually get that all reversed. Slow to listen, quick to become angry, quick to speak. And then we say things that we regret or say things that we say, oh, I didn't mean that. It just slipped out. But that's not true. Every single thing we say is an overflow of our hearts. In fact, Jesus says that in Matthew 12:34 and 35. It says, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. If there's good in here, it comes out. If there's evil in here, it comes out. It comes out in the way we talk. You've heard people, the way they speak. You can say, that's just not a nice person. Well, we know that's because there's something that's just really not quite right inside their heart. Our speech should be completely different. We control what we say. Period. We have control over what we say. You think about the example of Peter. And in the midst of the... he's going through this major trial. Of course, Jesus is going through trial here. But Peter's going through this spiritual trial as well at the same time. And he denies Christ 3 times. And in the midst of that, somebody says, hey, he was with Jesus. He's a Galilean. He talked differently. He had his speech. His speech gave him away. There should be something about our speech that gives us away. There should be a Christian dialect of sorts that gives us away. When we talk to our neighbors, when we talk to our coworkers, when we're talking to our family, our friends, there should be something different about the way we talk compared to the way that the world is talking. So control your speech. First and foremost, guard your heart. Control your speech. Second, control your motives. Proverbs 4:25 says this, let your eyes look straight ahead, fix your gaze directly before you. Now, this most likely isn't talking about a physical eyesight, okay? It's most likely not saying, make sure you watch where you step so you don't fall down. It's more of a spiritual sense of keeping your eyes fixed where they need to be. Keep your motives in check at all times. There was a lady who went to the doctor and she said, I really need you to examine me and tell me what's wrong. I really believe there's something severely wrong inside, but I don't know what it is. Because this morning when I woke up, I felt kind of okay, but when I looked in the mirror, my eyes were all bloodshot. My skin was really wrinkled up and very pasty looking. And I had this really just morbid look of death over me. And I don't know what that is. So please just examine me and let me know. And so the doctor examines her for a couple minutes and he says, well, one thing we know for sure, there's nothing wrong with your eyesight. Some of you will get that later. Nothing's wrong with your eyesight. Listen, guys, in a spiritual sense, we need to have our eyes checked. In a spiritual sense, we need to be examined constantly. Constantly examining our hearts. That's what I love about communion. It's a time to examine your heart. You sit here and you hold the bread and you hold the cup and you examine, how did I do this week? Was I good? Was I bad? Did I follow Christ? Did I serve him? Where was I? And you really examine every single thing in your heart. We need to examine the motives in our hearts, because we can talk a good game, and boy, we can put on that smiley face, and we can shake hands, and we can talk all pleasant and super nice face to face, but as soon as that person turns their back, bang, we're all over it. We attack them because our motives isn't, I love you, and I care about you. The motive is completely opposite to that. So we have to guard that. Guard our hearts, because our motives, boy, they can change just in a heartbeat, because I'm telling you, Satan will not give up. He will attack you every single moment. With every breath you take, and in between every breath, he is on the job. And he's working hard. He really is. He knows if he can get just a tiny little bite, he's in. Control your motives. Proverbs 16:2 says this: all a person's ways seem pure to him, but motives are weighed by the Lord. 1 Corinthians 4:5. This is speaking about Jesus. It says, he will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. That was one of my favorite scriptures in the whole Bible. I love it because we think that we're real and authentic with people, and we try to do our best to do that, but when it really comes down to it, there are a lot of people in this world who are either two-faced or phony or both, and even Christians. Sorry, guys, but those are called hypocrites, and you wonder why the church has a reputation for being filled with hypocrites. Well, we have these things. We don't guard our motives. We don't control our motives. We're not guarding our heart. We're allowing anything and everything to creep in there, and then we run with it, and it controls our actions. It starts to define who we are. It starts to shape us and shape our character. But I love that verse, because it says, you know what? It doesn't matter, because there's going to be a day when Jesus is going to bring it all into the light. And everything, whether good or not good, those motives are going to be seen for all, or they're going to be there for all to see. And so I love that. So guard your heart above all else. Control your speech. Control your motives. Finally, control your conduct. Proverbs 4:26 and 27. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Keep your foot from evil. That's pretty simple. In the way you conduct yourself, make sure that it's in line. It's in line with the world? No. It's in line with God. That path, that's the straight and narrow. Jesus says, narrow is the gate, narrow is the path that leads to life, and few find it. Follow that path. The path that leads to hell, it's broad, it's really wide. Many find it. This is telling us don't do that. Control your conduct. You can control how you act. You don't have to go all Incredible Hulk when you get mad and start throwing things and destroy stuff. You can control the way you act. You can control your conduct completely. God tells us, guard our hearts. If we couldn't do it, he wouldn't tell us to do it. Job says this in Job 34:11. Talking about God, it says, he repays everyone for what they have done. He brings on them what their conduct deserves. Again, that's a positive or a negative. Proverbs 21:8. The way of the guilty is devious, but the conduct of the innocent is upright. Ezekiel 24:14. You will be judged according to your conduct and your actions, declares the sovereign Lord. And Jeremiah 17:10 says, I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. There it is. Guard your heart above all else, for out of it everything flows. Everything. everything we do, everything we say. Our motives have to be pure. Our speech needs to be pure. Our conduct needs to be pure. Everything we do is a reflection of what's in our heart. If we're mean and grumpy, we're mean and grumpy in the heart. If we're loving and kind, we're loving and kind in our heart. It's all about having a right relationship with God. And he says to do it. He makes it very clear. He says guard it. It's not just an option. It's a command. Jesus said, if you love me, you'll obey my commands. So we guard our heart. We control our speech. We control our motives. We control our conduct. That is how we guard our heart. Let's pray. Father, thank you for